Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. One of the stories, or the group of stories I've been following, it has to do with voter irregularity or outright voter fraud. I just want to run through just very briefly some of what's going on out there today. You got real confusion in New Jersey because the state is trying to make a way for people to vote via email, but the law requires that after they vote via email, what they can do is they can fill out a form, they can scan it back into their computer, and they can email the scanned document to election officials, but they have to send in a paper ballot. They got to mail it in. A lot of voters didn't know that. There was even some confusion among New Jersey officials. Even some election workers were telling voters, no, you don't have to mail in the paper ballot. And those votes are not going to count unless they have been mailed. They've got to get a physical copy for security, for protection. They got to get a physical copy. And some people are writing that they've had a hard time getting even hold of people via email to get the form that they need to vote. And again, that's all trying to deal with the disruption of Hurricane Sandy. Now, in Philadelphia, you've got this one outfit called the Community Voters Project. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan voter registration outfit. They have been registering Republicans to vote. Well, they've been registering people to vote, and if the people indicate on the registration form that they're Republicans, this Community Voters Project is shredding their voter registration forms, running them through a shredder. And the reason we found this out, there was someone that found a paper bag outside the office there, the place where they were registering people, with all these shredded strips of paper, and they noticed the word Republican on one of those shredded strips of paper. They started poking around and realized that was exactly what was happening. Now, some of the swing states have refused to purge ineligible names from voter rolls. This is happening in Colorado. Out of 3.4 million people registered to vote in Colorado, 1.2 million are, quote, inactive. So these inactive names mean these are people that haven't voted. They haven't voted in some length of time. So those names are just sitting there for a corrupt election official to borrow. They're not even going to notice because their people are inactive. They're either dead or they've moved or they're completely disengaged politically. So they will never even know that somebody has voted in their name. Now, in Ohio, you've got an issue in Ohio, again, because ineligible voters are not being purged, despite the fact that they are required to do so by federal law. U.S. Census data in Ohio is showing that the number of individuals listed on voter registration rolls exceeds the number of eligible voters in at least 3 Ohio counties. So they've got more people registered to vote than even live there, than there are people in Ohio, and nothing is being done about that. And we do know that hundreds of Ohio voters got 2 absentee ballots. In fact, we got a call. We had one caller call this program and said he'd gotten 2 absentee ballots in the mail, not 1, but 2, at least 240 plus in Ohio. And all the election board is doing is advising people who got these 2 ballots to only return 1. Then I don't know. This is our advice. I mean, it seems to me if there was some kind of legal penalty, you ought to warn them, hey, you can go to jail if you vote twice, but they're not doing that. Here's a picture of a guy in a voting place in Ohio checking people in, and he's wearing an Obama cap. This is at a polling place. We've got other pictures of these big, giant Obama murals right behind the place where people vote. Again, that violates voting law. And the voter that took the photo of this guy wearing the Obama cap said the woman in front of me was given an extra ballot. Now, again, you get an extra ballot. The poll worker checks you in, gives you 2 ballots. You can go turn in 2 ballots. Who's going to know? Because the poll worker is supposed to be the firewall to stop that from happening. In Detroit, we have an Obama campaigner that actually punched a voter in the face. There was a woman in a polling location who was aggressively campaigning for Obama. A female voter in line objected, and the Obama supporter punched her in the face right inside the polling place. The police came to arrest her, and she punched out the cop. Then in another instance in Detroit, a GOP observer just there to monitor, make sure that everything is copacetic. He got chased from the polling station by a guy that said he had a gun. So they called the police on him. And then you've heard stories about these electronic voting machines that are actually you push the screen for Romney and it registers Obama. That kind of stuff is happening in Colorado. It's happening in Pennsylvania. And then they've got this problem in New Jersey with the email voting. And then in Nevada, you've got a scandal there. Glenn Cook of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he's a columnist. He says, I met last week with 2 immigrant non-citizens who are not eligible to vote, but who nonetheless are active registered voters. They were signed up by Culinary Local 226. That's a union. Signed them up to vote, even though they have no legal right even to be in the country, let alone vote. Then the culinary canvasser started harassing them and ordering them to go vote. They didn't want to do it because they know they have no right even to be in the country. Maybe they're afraid they're going to get busted if they show up and try to vote. But this union put pressure on them to get them to vote, threatened to deport them, threatened them with their jobs. And it turns out in Nevada, you never have to prove you're a citizen to register to vote or to vote. You don't have to show a photo ID at any point in the process, even registering to vote. You don't have to show photo ID. You could vote. These workers, these illegal immigrants, could vote by showing a health insurance card from their union and a power bill. That's all they would have to show in order to vote. Well, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Byron in Kokomo, Indiana. Byron, Kokomo, Indiana, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
I wanted to give glory to Jesus, praise him, get out there and vote. That was my first and second points. I was kind of frustrated this morning because where I was voting, there was only 128 people that had gone through the scanner at that time.
So you were sensing that kind of voter turnout and interest was sort of diminished where you are, and that's Kokomo, Indiana, right?
Yes.
Well, you got a pretty important Senate race there with Richard Murdoch running against Joe Donnelly, I guess, is a moderate Democrat. So you're actually not seeing the enthusiasm that we've seen other places.
I didn't when I went out.
All right. Well, that's a good word. It's a caution. If you haven't voted, I don't care where you are. This is a Byron calling from Kokomo, Indiana, but be sure you go vote. Be sure you go vote and vote your values. If you want to find a candidate that lines up with your values, go to afaaction.net. We got the most comprehensive voter guide available anywhere. Got it for your iPhone, for your iPad, and for your Android. And you can take them with you in places that allow it. You can take your smartphone with you into the polling place. Some places you can't do that, so you better check. In fact, a lot of places it's actually a felony to take a picture of your any photographing in an election place is against the law, and to photograph your ballot is against federal law. And a lot of people are taking pictures of their ballot and posting them on Instagram or a Twitter pic or on their Facebook page. That's actually a criminal offense. Now, people don't know it. They're taking a picture of their own ballot, posting it on their own Facebook page so they don't see what the problem is, but people could actually get in a little bit of trouble for doing that. But anyway, afaaction.net got an app for the iPhone, for the iPad, and the Android. Go get it and vote your values. Let's go to William in Columbus, Ohio. William, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to really commend you guys on what you guys do, and with the persistence of you guys, listening to you guys, I got my wife to finally register, and she voted.
Cool.
And I have a friend that he wrote Bart Simpson in, and I just told him that was outright wrong, so he voted his conscience. He voted for Mitt Romney. So I just commend you guys on that.
Great, William. And thank you for doing your part. I mean, a lot of it is just friends encouraging friends to vote.
Yeah, I agree. And my stepdaughter, she registered where she was working at, and she didn't tell them she was Republican or Democrat. And they marked her down as being a Democrat, and they knocked on her door twice to try to get her to vote persistently to go down there and vote early. But, I just found that weird.
So their kind of default registration mark was for the Democrat Party, and the Democrat workers are showing up at her door uninvited and.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Correct.
All right. Wow.
I just wanted to ask you, if all this, the TVs you watch, I have not seen anything. They talk about how the Democrats, are getting their votes stolen by the Republicans, but do they ever mention the other? Have you ever seen anything on TV where it mentions the other side about all these voter frauds and?
No, that's what's absurd, William, and thank you for the call. But this is what is absolutely absurd is Howard Dean talking about how the Republicans are trying to steal the election in Ohio from the Democrats. The Republicans aren't doing any of this. Every story that I have given you, every single concrete example of voter fraud, voter intimidation is being carried out by a representative or a member of the Democratic Party. Every solitary single one. If anybody's trying to commit fraud here, anybody's responsible for voter irregularity, anybody's trying to rip off the election, it's the Democrats. It's the Democrats in Ohio that are loading up Somalis that can't even speak English, loading them up in vans, driving them down to the polling place and basically filling out their ballots for them. It's the Democrats that are loading up mentally impaired people, mentally handicapped people, loading them up in vans, driving them down to polling places and filling out the ballots for them. It's Democrats that are doing that sort of thing. Let's grab a call from Joe in Conroe, Texas. Joe, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Oh, Brian, I just want to call and tell you that I really enjoy your programs there at AFR.
Thank you.
And I listen to them every day.
Great.
On the way to and from work. And that's the only station my radio's on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for listening.
I wanted to tell you that I did something out of my ordinary today. I've usually always voted straight Democrat, but I had to vote my conscience today.
And how'd you vote?
I went straight Republican.
Wow. And last time in 2008, Joe, how did you vote in 2008?
I voted Democrat.
Wow. So 30 seconds, what changed your mind from Democrat to Republican?
All this same-sex marriage, abortion, gay rights, the way the economy's gone.
Huh. Well, that's interesting, Joe, and I appreciate that call very, very much. That's significant. You just heard a caller, Joe, Conroe, Texas, voted straight Democrat 2008, voted straight Republican this time, and it was because of the values issues, sanctity of life, sanctity of marriage, and third was the economy. That was important to him, but just as important, perhaps even more important, the values issues. They do matter to values voters. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stay with us. Don't go away.